Jake Morrison sat in his chair at the communications center deep inside Luna Station. The station orbited Earth's moon and served as the main headquarters for United Earth Defense Command. Jake was a captain in the Earth Defense Fleet, and today was supposed to be a quiet shift monitoring routine space traffic. The large screens around him showed normal patterns of ships moving between colonies and trade routes. Cargo vessels carried supplies to the outer worlds, while passenger transports brought families to new settlements. Everything looked peaceful in human space. Lisa Carter worked at the station next to him. She was the best communications officer on Luna Station and could decode almost any signal that came through their receivers. Lisa had short brown hair and always wore her uniform perfectly pressed. She took pride in her work and never missed important transmissions. The alarm on Lisa's console started beeping softly at first, then grew louder. She frowned and adjusted her headset while typing commands on her keyboard. Something unusual was coming through the deep space communication array. "Captain Morrison," Lisa called out while still working on her computer. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range receivers. It's not coming from any of our ships or colonies." Jake rolled his chair over to look at Lisa's screens. The signal was weak and kept breaking up. Strange symbols appeared on the monitor, but they didn't look like any human language. The transmission seemed to come from far beyond the edge of human space. "Can you clean it up?" Jake asked, while watching the flickering display. Lisa's fingers moved quickly across her controls as she tried to strengthen the signal. She activated the universal translation system that Earth scientists had built after first contact with alien species 20 years ago. The translation program worked slowly on the alien language. Letters and words began appearing on the screen, in English. Lisa gasped when she read the first complete sentence that came through clearly. "This is Valerian transport ship, peaceful journey requesting immediate assistance from any vessel within communication range," the message read. "We are under attack by multiple hostile ships. Our defensive systems have failed and we cannot escape. We carry 300 civilian refugees, including many children." Jake felt his stomach drop when he read those words. The Valerians were humanity's first and most trusted allies in space. They were peaceful people who had never started a war with anyone. When humans first left Earth and met other species, the Valerians welcomed them with open arms. More of the message came through. As Lisa improved the signal strength, "Krex raiders have surrounded our ship and are demanding we surrender all passengers for slavery. We cannot comply with this request as it would mean certain death for our people. Any ship that can provide assistance, please respond immediately. We estimate we have less than 2 hours before our hull is breached." The transmission included location coordinates from a point near the outer edge of human space where new colonies were still being built. Jake knew that area well, because Earth defense patrols regularly checked on the settlements there. Lisa looked at Jake with worried eyes. "Should I alert Admiral Hughes?" she asked, while keeping the signal active. Jake nodded quickly and pressed the emergency button on his console. Within minutes, Admiral Frank Hughes would know about this situation. The Admiral arrived in the communications center faster than Jake had ever seen him move. Frank Hughes was a tall man with gray hair who had served in the Earth Defense Fleet for 30 years. He had fought in the colony wars and helped establish Earth's first defensive treaties with alien species. "What do we have?" Admiral Hughes asked as he looked at the screens showing the Valerian distress signal. Lisa played back the complete message while the Admiral listened carefully. His face grew darker with each word. Jake knew the history between humans and Valerians well. During the Great Plague that swept through human colonies 15 years ago, Valerian doctors shared their advanced medical technology freely. They refused any payment and said they helped because it was the right thing to do. Millions of human lives were saved because of Valerian generosity. "The Krex are slavers and murderers," Admiral Hughes said while studying the location coordinates. "They attack weak ships and sell prisoners to whoever pays the most. The Valerians have no weapons and no way to fight back." Commander Rita Stone entered the communications center after being called by the emergency alert. She was Admiral Hughes's second-in-command and handled fleet operations. Rita was known for being calm under pressure and making smart tactical decisions. "Sir, we could send a patrol squadron from the Outer Rim," Rita suggested, while looking at the star charts. 3 or 4 ships should be enough to drive off the raiders. Admiral Hughes shook his head slowly. "The Kreks travel in large groups and they're vicious fighters. A small patrol might not be enough, and we can't risk losing ships when Valerian lives are at stake." Jake watched as the Admiral walked to the main tactical display that showed all Earth defense ships throughout human space. Hundreds of blue dots represented human vessels, from tiny scouts to massive battleships. The Admiral studied the display for several long minutes. "The Valerians saved millions of our people during the plague," Admiral Hughes said quietly. "They never asked for anything in return, and they've been loyal friends ever since. Now they need our help." The Admiral turned to face everyone in the communications center. His expression was serious and determined. "Send out fleet mobilization orders to all ships within 3 jumps of the crisis zone. I want every available vessel to rally at coordinate Sigma 7 immediately." Rita looked surprised by the size of the response. "Sir, that's going to be over 400 ships for one rescue mission. Don't you think that might be excessive?" "Admiral." Hughes looked at the Valerian distress signal still playing on the screens. "Commander Stone, the Valerians are peaceful people who trusted us enough to send that distress call. They believe we'll help them because that's what friends do. We're going to make sure every single refugee on that ship gets home safely." The Admiral activated the fleet-wide communication system and began issuing orders to ship captains across human space. Jake could hear the determination in his voice as he called for humanity's largest fleet movement in over a decade. Lisa continued monitoring the Valerian signal while Jake and the others listened to Admiral Hughes coordinate the massive rescue operation. The peaceful aliens were still transmitting their desperate plea for help, while Krek's raiders circled their defenseless ship. Soon, hundreds of human warships would be racing through space toward the crisis zone. The Krek's raiders had no idea what they had started when they decided to attack humanity's friends. The fleet mobilization alert reached Captain Danny Clark, while his battleship UES Vengeance patrolled the mining colonies near Kepler Station. Danny had been watching asteroid miners work when the emergency signal came through his ship's communication system. He read the message twice to make sure he understood correctly. "All hands to battle stations," Danny announced over his ship's intercom. "Set course for rally point Sigma 7 at maximum speed. We have friends in trouble." The crew of the Vengeance moved quickly to their positions. Danny's ship was one of the newest battleships in the Earth Defense Fleet. It carried enough firepower to destroy an entire enemy squadron, and its armor could withstand direct hits from the largest weapons known to exist. Lieutenant, Commander Amy Rodriguez received the same alert, while her destroyer squadron conducted training exercises near Mars. Her 5 ships had been practicing formation flying when the mobilization order interrupted their drill. Amy commanded the 47th. Destroyer squadron and her crews were among the best in the fleet. "All ships, cease training operations immediately," Amy broadcast to her squadron. "Plot jump coordinates for rally point Sigma 7 and prepare for combat operations. This is not a drill." Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Tony Barnes, looked at the star charts and calculated their route. "Commander, at maximum speed, we can reach the rally point in 4 hours," he reported. "Should we load combat ammunition?" Amy nodded without hesitation. "Full combat loadout for all ships. If we're mobilizing this many vessels, then the situation must be serious." She knew that Earth Defense Command never moved large fleets unless the threat was significant. On the massive carrier UES Liberty, Captain Steve Walsh was reviewing pilot training reports when the alert arrived. His ship carried over 200 fighters and bombers plus their crews. The Liberty was the largest carrier in human space and could project force across multiple star systems. Steve immediately called for his wing commander Kelly Price to report to the bridge. Kelly led the carrier's fighter squadrons and had more combat experience than any other pilot in the fleet. She arrived within minutes of being summoned. "We just received fleet mobilization orders," Steve told Kelly while showing her the tactical display. "I need all fighter wings ready for combat operations within the hour. How quickly can your pilots be prepared?" Kelly studied the information on the screen about the Valerian distress call. "My pilots can be ready in 30 minutes, sir. We've been training for exactly this kind of rescue mission. The fighters are already loaded with standard ordnance." Steve smiled grimly. "Make it 20 minutes, Kelly. Our friends are counting." "On us." Kelly saluted and ran toward the fighter bay to brief her pilots. Soon, the space around the Liberty would be filled with human fighters racing toward the crisis zone. The alien observers monitoring human space watched with growing confusion as hundreds of ships began moving toward the same coordinates. The Zephyrian trade delegation had a monitoring station near Earth that tracked all military movements. Ambassador Zek Tral of the Zephyrian Commerce Guild contacted Earth Command to ask about the unusual fleet activity. "Human Command, our sensors detect massive ship movements throughout your territory. Are you preparing for war against another species?" The human response came from Admiral Hughes himself. "Ambassador, we are responding to a distress call from our Valerian allies. A civilian transport is under attack by Krex raiders." Zektral's voice showed surprise. "Admiral Hughes, our sensors indicate over 400 of your warships are moving toward this incident. Surely you do not require such force to deal with a few raiders attacking one transport?" Admiral Hughes was quiet for a moment before answering. "Ambassador, the Valerians are our friends and they're in danger. We're sending enough ships to make sure every single civilian on that transport survives." The Zephyrian ambassador disconnected the communication while muttering about human overreaction to minor threats. He did not understand that humans had different ideas about protecting their allies than most other species in the galaxy. Admiral Hughes coordinated the massive response from his flagship, the dreadnought UES Defiance. His ship was the largest and most powerful vessel ever built by humans. The Defiance could destroy enemy fleets single-handed, and its shields could protect entire colonies from orbital bombardment. The tactical displays on the bridge showed blue dots representing human ships converging from across their territory. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and support vessels all moved toward the rally point at maximum speed. Colonel Pete Mitchell served as Admiral Hughes's tactical officer and watched the fleet assembly with amazement. "Sir, this will be the largest fleet operation in Earth defense history. We'll have more firepower concentrated in one area than ever before." Admiral Hughes nodded while studying reports from his ship captains. "Pete, the Valerians saved millions of human lives during the plague years. They shared their medical technology freely and asked for nothing in return. Now they need our help." The Admiral activated fleet-wide communications so he could address all the captains preparing for the rescue mission. His voice was calm but determined as he spoke to hundreds of ship commanders. "Captains, today we show the galaxy what it means to have Earth as your ally. The Valerians trusted us enough to send their distress call because they know humans don't abandon their friends. We're going to make sure every refugee on that transport gets home safely." Ship after ship acknowledged the Admiral's message as they raced through space toward the rally point. The largest military fleet in human history was assembling to rescue 300 alien civilians from a handful of raiders. On distant worlds, other alien species monitored the human response with growing interest. The peaceful Altarians wondered why Earth needed so many ships for one rescue. The warrior Drakmari respected the humans for honoring their alliance, but questioned the tactical necessity. Only the Valerians themselves understood the true meaning of humanity's massive response. When Dr. Zen Kari, the Valerian ambassador to Earth, learned about the fleet mobilization, she wept with gratitude. Her people had sent one desperate call for help, and humanity was responding with their entire military might. The human fleet continued. gathering at rally point Sigma 7, while the Valerian transport Peaceful Journey transmitted increasingly desperate updates about their situation. Soon, 400 human warships would jump into the crisis zone together. The human fleet arrived at the crisis zone to find a scene worse than anyone had imagined. Captain Jake Morrison's reconnaissance ship, UES Scout, dropped out of hyperspace first and immediately began scanning the area. What his sensors revealed made his blood run cold. 15. Krex raider ships surrounded the Valerian transport Peaceful Journey in a loose circle. The alien vessel was damaged and venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Worse still, Jake's sensors detected that the transport had been boarded by Krex warriors who were now inside the ship. Communications. Try to raise the Valerian transport, Jake ordered his bridge crew. His communication officer worked frantically but could only receive weak signals from the damaged ship. What came through was horrifying beyond belief. The Krex were systematically executing Valerian civilians while broadcasting the murders to their homeworld for entertainment. Jake watched in horror as his screens showed innocent families being killed while Krex spectators cheered from their home planet millions of miles away. The largest Krex ship was clearly the flagship of their raiding fleet. Its hull was painted, with symbols showing the number of worlds they had attacked and populations they had enslaved. This was War Chief Thrakmor's vessel, one of the most feared pirate commanders in known space. Jake opened a communication channel to the Krex flagship, hoping to buy time until the main fleet arrived. The face that appeared on his screen was nightmare fuel. Thrakmor was a massive reptilian creature with red eyes and teeth like broken glass. Scars covered his face from countless battles. "Human vessel, you are far from home," Thrakmor spoke, in broken English, through his ship's translator. "These prey belong to me now. Leave this place, or join them in slavery." Jake kept his voice steady despite the rage building inside him. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. Release the Valerian civilians immediately and surrender your ships." Thrakmor laughed with a sound like grinding metal. "One small human ship thinks to threaten the mighty Thrakmor. You amuse me, little human. Perhaps I will keep you alive as a pet." The Krex commander activated a video feed from inside the Valerian transport. Jake saw Valerian children huddled together while Krex warriors stood over them with weapons. The sea. Aliens were clearly terrified, and some of the youngest were crying for their parents. "See how your precious allies suffer," Thrakmor continued with obvious pleasure. "My warriors grow bored with the adults. Soon they will begin playing with the young ones. Such sweet sounds they make when they scream." Jake had to grip his command chair to keep from shaking with fury. Every instinct told him to attack immediately. But his single scout ship could not fight 15 raiders. He needed to stall until Admiral Hughes arrived with the main fleet. "What do you want for their release?" Jake asked through clenched teeth. Thrakmor's eyes gleamed with cruel amusement as he considered the question. "These Valerians will bring good prices in the slave markets of Dracor Prime. Perhaps 100,000 credits each for the healthy adults. The children will be worth even more to certain buyers with specific tastes." The communication was being recorded and transmitted back to Admiral Hughes aboard the UES Defiance. The Admiral listened to every word while his massive fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace. His face showed no emotion, but Colonel Pete Mitchell could see the cold fury in his commander's eyes. "Sir, we have 437 ships. Ready to jump," Pete reported while monitoring the fleet status displays. "All weapons are charged and crews are at battle stations." Admiral Hughes nodded slowly without taking his eyes off the communication feed from Captain Morrison's ship. He was watching Thrakmor describe in graphic detail what his warriors planned to do with their prisoners. The Krex war chief seemed to enjoy explaining his plans to the human captain. He told Jake about the slave markets where Valerian civilians would be sold and the entertainment arenas where they would fight for the amusement of spectators. "Your Valerian friends make excellent slaves," Thrakmor said with obvious satisfaction. "They are weak and cannot fight back. perfect for buyers who enjoy breaking their spirits slowly. Jake's communication officer suddenly looked up from her, console with a shocked expression. Captain, the Kreks are transmitting live video to their homeworld. They're turning this into some kind of entertainment broadcast. The realization hit Jake like a physical blow. Millions of Kreks citizens were watching the torture and murder of innocent Valerians as entertainment. This wasn't just piracy or slavery. It was genocide being broadcast as a game show. Thrackmore activated another video feed showing Kreks warriors dragging Valerian families to different parts of the transport. My people enjoy watching prey suffer before they die. Your allies will provide hours of amusement. That was the moment when Admiral Hughes had heard enough. He activated fleet-wide communications, and his voice reached every human ship preparing to jump into the battle zone. All ships, this is Admiral Hughes. What you are about to witness represents everything we stand against as human beings. These creatures have made their choice. Show them the consequences of harming innocents under our protection, the Admiral turned to his tactical officer and gave the order that would change everything. Colonel Mitchell, signal the fleet to jump. All weapons free upon arrival. Leave nothing but debris and a warning to anyone else who thinks about harming our friends. Captain Morrison continued his communication with Thrackmore, while sensors detected the massive hyperspace disturbances of the approaching human fleet. The Kreks commander was still boasting about his plans when 437 human warships suddenly appeared around his small raiding party. Thrackmore's expression changed from cruel amusement to shocked disbelief as his sensors showed the true size of humanity's response. The space around his 15 ships was now filled with human battleships, carriers, cruisers, and destroyers, all with weapons aimed directly at his fleet. Impossible, Thrackmore whispered as he stared at the tactical display showing hundreds of human vessels. No species sends such force for mere refugees. Admiral Hughes appeared on the communication channel, and his voice was colder than deep space. War Chief Thrackmore, you have 30 seconds to release every single Valerian civilian unharmed, or we will demonstrate why Earth is called a death world. War Chief Thrackmore stared at his tactical screens in complete disbelief as hundreds of human warships surrounded his small raiding fleet. His 15 ships looked like toys compared to the massive battleships and carriers that had appeared from hyperspace. The Kreks commander had never seen such overwhelming force used against raiders. You think numbers frighten me, humans? Thrackmore snarled into the communication channel. I still have your precious Valerian friends aboard this transport. One wrong. Move, and I will execute every last one of them. Admiral Hughes watched from the bridge of his flagship UES Defiance as his fleet took battle positions around the Kreks raiders. His tactical officer, Colonel Pete Mitchell, reported that all human ships were ready to fire. The Admiral's response was calm, but carried the promise of absolute destruction. War Chief, you have 20 seconds remaining, Admiral Hughes said without emotion. Release the civilians or face the consequences of your actions. Thrackmore made his fatal mistake by trying to use the Valerian transport as a shield. He ordered his ship to move directly behind the civilian vessel while threatening to kill more hostages. His warriors aboard the transport began dragging Valerian families toward the airlocks. Your move, human admiral. Thrackmore laughed with cruel satisfaction. Fire on me, and you kill your precious allies. I know you soft humans would never sacrifice innocents to win a battle. Captain Steve Walsh aboard the carrier UES Liberty had been waiting for exactly this situation. His Marine Battalion under Major Chris Johnson specialized in boarding actions and hostage rescue. Steve opened a direct channel to Admiral Hughes. Sir, my Marines can take that transport in 15 minutes, Steve reported while watching his assault shuttles prepare to launch. Major Johnson's teams have trained for exactly this scenario. Admiral Hughes nodded grimly. Launch the boarding action, Captain Walsh. All other ships prepare to engage the moment our Marines secure those civilians. Major Chris Johnson led 200 of Earth's most elite soldiers as they launched from the Liberty in heavily armored assault shuttles. These Marines wore advanced combat suits that could survive in space, and their weapons could punch through any armor the Kreks possessed. The assault shuttles moved toward the Valerian transport while staying in the blind spots of Krek's sensors. Johnson's teams had studied the layout of Valerian ships and knew exactly how to reach the civilian areas quickly. They attached to the transport's hull and began cutting through the outer armor. Wing Commander Kelly Price launched her fighter squadrons from the Liberty at the same time. 200 human fighters spread out around the battle zone to prevent any Krek's ships from escaping. Each fighter carried enough missiles to destroy a raider vessel single-handed. Captain Danny Clark's battleship UES Vengeance moved into position with its massive rail cannons aimed at the Krek's flagship. His weapons could punch holes through a planet, and Thrakmor's ship would not survive even one direct hit. Danny waited for the order to fire while watching the Marine assault develop. Commander Amy Rodriguez positioned her destroyer squadron to hunt down any Krek's ships that tried to run. Her vessels were fast and deadly, designed to chase down fleeing enemies. Lieutenant Tony Barnes coordinated target assignments as they prepared to eliminate the raider fleet. Inside the Valerian transport, Major Johnson's Marines moved through, the corridors like unstoppable forces of nature. Their advanced armor made them immune to Krek's weapons, while their own guns could kill multiple enemies with each shot. The aliens had never faced soldiers this well-trained and equipped. The first Krek's warrior to encounter the Marines died before he could raise his weapon. Johnson's team moved with mechanical precision, clearing each section of the ship while protecting every civilian they found. The Valerians huddled behind the Marines as the soldiers advanced toward the command areas. Thrakmor realized something was wrong when his warriors aboard the transport stopped responding to communication. His tactical officer reported strange energy readings from the Valerian ship but could not identify what was happening. "War Chief, our boarding parties are not responding," the tactical officer reported with growing concern. "Something is eliminating our warriors systematically." Before Thrakmor could respond, Major Johnson's voice came over the communication channel. "War Chief Thrakmor, this is Major Johnson of the Earth Defense Marines. All Valerian civilians are now under our protection." The Marine commander activated his helmet camera so the Krek's leader could see what was happening aboard the transport. Bodies of Krek's warriors littered the corridors, while human Marines escorted frightened but unharmed Valerian families to safety. "Your boarding parties are finished," Major Johnson continued while his team secured the last areas of the ship. "Every civilian is alive and safe. You no longer have any hostages." Thrakmor screamed in fury as he realized his advantage was gone. The human Marines had accomplished in minutes what should have been impossible. His elite warriors lay dead. While not a single Valerian had been harmed during the rescue, Admiral Hughes opened fleet-wide communications as soon as Major Johnson reported all civilians secured. His voice reached every human ship in the battle zone with the order they had been waiting for. "All ships, weapons free," the Admiral commanded. "Show these murderers what happens when you harm innocent people under our protection." What followed was not a battle in any traditional sense. It was complete annihilation delivered with surgical precision. Captain Clark's battleship opened fire first with its massive rail cannons. The projectiles moved at incredible speed and punched through Thrakmor's flagship like it was made of paper. The Krek's command ship exploded in a ball of superheated plasma that could be seen from neighboring star systems. Commander Rodriguez's destroyers swept through the remaining Krek's vessels like predators hunting prey. Their advanced targeting systems locked onto every raider ship simultaneously. The aliens had no chance to run or fight back as human weapons tore their ships apart. Wing Commander Price's fighters swarmed the battle zone, delivering precision strikes on any Krek's vessel that survived the initial bombardment. The small human craft moved with deadly grace, their pilots demonstrating skills that terrified any alien observers watching the battle. Within 47 minutes of Admiral Hughes giving the order to fire, every single Krek's raider ship had been destroyed. The space around the Valerian transport was filled with debris from 15 enemy vessels. Not one Krex warrior survived to report what had happened. The rescued Valerian civilians were transferred to human medical ships where doctors treated their injuries and trauma. The transport Peaceful Journey was too damaged to continue its journey, but every refugee was alive and safe thanks to the overwhelming human response. 3 weeks after the rescue operation, recordings of humanity's response had spread throughout known space faster than any government could control them. Every species in the galaxy watched in stunned silence as 400 human warships obliterated 15 Krex raiders in less than 1 hour. The footage showed the complete destruction triggered by a single distress call from an Allied civilian vessel. Ambassador Helen Grant sat in the main chamber of the Galactic Council representing humanity at an emergency session. The other species delegates struggled to understand why Earth had committed such overwhelming force to rescue 300 refugees. Representatives from dozens of worlds demanded explanations for what they called humanity's excessive military response. The Zephyrian delegate Zek Trell spoke first, his voice carrying disapproval. Ambassador Grant, your species deployed enough firepower to conquer entire star systems for one rescue mission. This level of response threatens the balance of power throughout the galaxy. Helen looked around the chamber at faces that showed fear, confusion, and suspicion. These aliens could not comprehend why humans had risked so much to save civilians from another species. She stood to address the council with calm dignity. Honored delegates, humanity responded with the force necessary to ensure no Valerian civilians died while our ships were traveling to their location, Helen explained. We considered this a measured and appropriate response to protect innocent lives. The Altarian representative waved his tentacles in agitation. Measured response. Your fleets destroyed an entire raider group that posed no threat to human worlds or colonies. This seems like an act of aggression disguised as rescue. Before Helen could respond, Admiral Jake Morrison entered the chamber. He had been promoted after his role in detecting the original distress signal and was now serving as military advisor to Earth's diplomatic mission. Jake carried data files containing the complete record of the rescue operation. Honorable Council. Members, I was present during the entire operation, Jake said while activating a holographic display. I invite you to review the communications between our fleet and the Krex raiders before making judgments about our response. The hologram showed War Chief Thrakmor bragging about torturing Valerian children for entertainment. Council members watched in horror as the recording played Krex laughter while innocent families were murdered for broadcast to their homeworld. The chamber fell silent as delegates witnessed the brutality that had triggered humanity's response. Even species known for their aggressive nature looked disturbed by what they saw. The Krex had been broadcasting genocide as entertainment for millions of viewers. Admiral Hughes appeared via hologram from Luna Station to provide additional testimony about the operation. His image filled the center of the council chamber as he addressed the assembled delegates with military precision. Council members, the Krex Empire has been conducting these entertainment broadcasts for over 50 years, Admiral Hughes reported. Our intelligence services estimate they have murdered over 2 million innocent civilians from various species for the amusement of their population. The Drakmari war leader Gorth Kul spoke next, his massive frame dominating the speaker's platform. Admiral Hughes, the Drakmari understand protecting allies, but your response seems excessive. 15 ships could not threaten your entire civilization. Admiral Hughes looked directly at the Drakmari leader. War leader Gorth Kul, would your people have sent fewer ships if those refugees were Drakmari children being tortured for alien entertainment? Gorth Kul paused before answering, his warrior instincts recognizing the truth in the Admiral's question. We would have sent our entire war fleet, he admitted. But that is different because they would be our own people. The session was interrupted when the Valerian ambassador, Dr. Zenkari, requested permission to address the council. She entered the chamber supported by medical equipment after suffering injuries during another recent Krex attack on her homeworld. Doctor. Zenkari spoke with tears in her large eyes as she thanked humanity for their response. Honored delegates, the rescued children have begun drawing pictures of human ships as protective symbols. They call these vessels Sky Guardians in our language. The elderly Valerian activated her own holographic display showing artwork created by the refugee children. Simple drawings depicted human battleships surrounded by hearts and flowers with words of gratitude written in crayon. My people have been pacifists for over 3,000 years, Dr. Zenkari continued. We have never built weapons of war or learned to fight our enemies. Without human protection, our species would already be extinct. The Krex Empire's representative demanded to speak next. Ambassador Skekthar was a smaller version of the brutal raiders, but carried himself with diplomatic arrogance. His species had sent him to demand reparations for their destroyed fleet. The Krex Empire protests this unprovoked aggression against our legitimate business operations, Skekthar declared. We demand compensation for 15 destroyed vessels and 300 dead warriors. Admiral Hughes responded before any other delegate could speak. His voice carried the same cold promise that had terrified War Chief Thrakmore. Ambassador Skekthar, attack our allies again, and we will demonstrate what total fleet annihilation actually looks like. The human admiral continued with icy calm. What you witnessed was a rescue operation using minimal necessary force. We have over 10,000 warships in reserve that were not needed for this mission. Silence filled the council chamber as delegates absorbed the implications of Admiral Hughes's statement. If humanity could deploy 400 ships as a minimal response, their true military capability was beyond anything other species had imagined. The emergency session concluded with an unexpected development that surprised every delegate present. 17 different species formally requested defensive alliances with Earth through their ambassadors. The peaceful Altarians wanted human protection for their merchant fleets. The scientific Zephyrians offered technology exchanges for military guarantees. Even warrior species like the Drakmari proposed mutual defense treaties recognizing human combat superiority. Ambassador Helen Grant found herself scheduling dozens of meetings as species representatives lined up to negotiate with Earth. They recognized that while humanity came from a death world, they directed their lethal capabilities toward protecting innocence rather than conquering the weak. Admiral Hughes returned to Luna Station where he found a personal message waiting from the Valerian refugees. They had collectively decided to name their new colony ship the UES Friendship using combined human and Valerian technology. The message included a video from the rescued children singing a song they had composed about their Sky Guardians. Their young voices filled the Admiral's office as they sang about brave humans who traveled across the stars to keep them safe. Admiral Hughes smiled as he watched the innocent faces of the children his fleet had saved. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humanity during the rescue operation. Humans did not just fight like demons when protecting their friends, they fought like something far more dangerous. They fought like humans who had something precious to protect.